What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shuggy from Shook Earth Media, and today we're talking about The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2. For those who don't know, Saints and Sinners is one of my favorite VR games ever. I don't know if anybody watching has played any VR games, but it goes Half-Life Alyx, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and then everything else. And nothing really compares. It's a really fun survival game where you're collecting resources, you're crafting stuff. I did a story review of the game, and the story, I had some mixed feelings about, but the gameplay itself and the amount of options you have where you can climb up buildings, where you have all these different weapons, and there's, a realistic kind of survival type of gameplay where weapons can break and you have to you stay on your toes and you got to find crafting resources and stuff. It's really addicting game. It's a lot of fun, and the sequel was just announced. So Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution is releasing later this year. This was announced at the Facebook Oculus event that was yesterday, which I should have watched, but I didn't. But let's just check out this trailer and see what it has to say.
A broken man. He is capable of anything. Cruelty, viciousness, slaughter. Some are horrified by what I've done. But you, tourist, are the real monster.
Okay, so we have a strange voice saying that he's done terrible things, but the real monster is the tourist. For those who don't know, the tourist is the character you play as in the original game, and it takes place in New Orleans, and it looks like we're headed back there to New Orleans. And I like that they're keeping the setting, because the setting was one of the most interesting parts. It gave an interesting look to the game, and it's a unique location in the Walking Dead franchise. So I'm liking this, and I like the thematic core of it, of the whole Saints and Sinners aspects, the good or evil, the moral decisions you have to make, and all that. I think that that's something that really could be elaborated on in terms of the narrative in the next game, and I think that they really need to show more of the story instead of hearing about the story and it happening elsewhere. That's the biggest issue I had with the original story. It'd be cool to have more in-your-face kind of action, but honestly, the gameplay is what carries this more than anything, so that's what I'm excited about.
The things you have broken cannot be mended.
Somebody in a hat over here.
For every action, there is consequence. And when I finally find you, tourist, you will see what a broken man has to offer.
So somebody wants revenge against a tourist. This guy right here, I love this design here. This is an interesting look for a character. I don't know who this is. I don't think that this is anybody that we have seen in the game before. And now we get some good look at the action, and this is pretty much, it looks like the gameplay is pretty preserved. There's a new weapon. That weapon in the left hand is one of my favorites in the game, because you can decapitate. It's the one-handed weapon where you can decapitate zombies with it, so that's always fun. But it looks intense, and you get a chainsaw. I mean, come on. I need the chainsaw, man. I mean, come on, dude. That's awesome. So we get some new weapons here, but it looks a little bit more intense. I don't know if they're just doing this for the trailer, but in the original game, it wasn't that intense with the zombies until later. Or if you played, there's like a wave survival mode. If you play that, it gets intense. If you play the DLC where it takes place after the main story, it also gets pretty intense. So that's pretty much the only time that you'll see that many zombies on screen. There's a lot more here than there was before. So I don't know if that's just for the trailer, make it look cinematic or not, but I'm excited to have my skill tested. And I gotta say, we got some graphical improvements. I mean, I'm sure the final products will look different, but I'm really excited about this game, guys. Let's check out the Steam page before we call it a day. So, haunted by the seemingly unstoppable Axeman, that's the guy who we saw in the trailer, and the guy who is in this picture here. Let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, it doesn't look like I can zoom in. Sorry, guys. Actually, we can just do this. We could do this, I think. Yeah, well, there we go. Cool. Haunted by the unstoppable Axeman and facing off against the tower's latest push for total dominance. Okay, so the tower is back in it. And in the previous game, you have the option to either side with the tower or the Reclaimed, I think they're called. And what is confusing about me is, okay, so if the Axeman is with the tower, I find it interesting. There must be something that happens that's the inciting incident of this Retribution, because as of the last game, you can side with the tower, ultimately. So it would be kind of weird for him getting revenge if you ended up siding with the tower at the end. Discover what connects these new threats together before it's too late. Okay, so there's a mystery going on, and we have to figure out why the Axeman is facing off against us, I guess. New faces, places, weapons, and gear will await you on your journey to a final showdown for the city's fate. And looking at a lot of these, how's this look? Whoop. Let's zoom this out a little bit. Or here, we could just do that. We get some new locations, and we get some really detailed environments, which I'm really liking the sound of. This is the chainsaw in the room that we saw in the trailer. And there, you'll notice there's less zombies in this room than there were in the trailer. There's nobody up here. We got one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. This is a bit more like what the actual game is. And the reason they do that is because they make it take time to reload. And it might be a little bit overwhelming if there's just constant swarms of zombies all the time. So I of course, the real threat are the humans. They're the ones you got to worry about. And when I was trying to play this as a stealth game, it was so much more difficult. And then on the second playthrough, I was just like, I'm just going to shoot everybody on sight. And that's really the best way to play this. But yeah, I'm really liking the way everything looks. Get some new record store here, some new environments. Everything's looking more detailed. I'm curious how it's going to be laid out, if it's going to be a similar layout to before where we have a home base and then you travel out to an area and then you come back to the home base every day. Day-night cycle, if there's a time limit with the bells. I'm really curious how this is going to go. We got some kind of recording booth here, music studio thing. And, I mean, this looks like a concert hall or something in it. And I'm liking the looks of this game. So let's take a look at some of their descriptions here. Your tour through undead New Orleans continues in this chapter to this tourist story in The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Hunted by the seemingly unstoppable... we read that already. Do you have what it takes to survive it all? All the great features you loved in the original are here. Okay, refined and better than ever. So everything, gameplay-wise, they're not removing any features. So it's going to be very similar. Face off against countless Walking Dead with visceral physics-based combat only possible in VR with an ever-expanding collection of weapons, improvised or otherwise. That's what makes this such a great VR game, is you can interact with so many things in the environment. You can grab a zombie by the head and throw it back and use that time that it takes to recover to reload your weapon. There's all manner of things that you can do to... you can even use the guts ability. I mean, in the VR, it's so much more visceral. I really could not recommend it enough. Take on missions from different characters and factions all across NOLA, gaining resources and loot across the way. This is pretty much a good description of how the game was originally. There were side quests and characters that you could talk to. The side quests were mostly a little underwhelming. I would like to see that elaborated on a bit more. And I'm curious about the factions, because there were only 2 factions in the original game, and I'm curious to see if we'll see some new ones. I would suspect that we will. Survive your way and choose how you want to handle each deadly new encounter. This is really something that made the game great, is how many different ways there were to approach each situation. Be a master of melee, an expert gunslinger, a stealthy shadow, and so much more. So there, you can do stealth combat, you can do melee, you can do guns, of course, and they even have, like, you can climb up the side of buildings. There's a lot of different ways to approach every situation, and that's one of the interesting things about the game. It's a little bit more open-ended than your standard kind of linear shooter game. Be a saint or a sinner. Choose to help or hinder who you like, and define who you want your tours to be to the people of the city. That was thematically what the last game was about, but I feel like they could elaborate on that part more. Definitely. I mean, the choices didn't really have any real impact. I mean, you saw the impact immediately, but there wasn't any lasting conflict that resolved, or there wasn't any down the road consequences to your actions. So that's something that I think that could be elaborated on. Beware the Axeman. Battle a terrifying new foe, more deadly than any walker or desperate survivor. Determined to chop you to bits, you'll need to fight with all you got or run for your life as this towering pursuer comes for you. I mean, you saw the armor. I feel like he's bulletproof. I feel like he's can't really get easily hit by melee. I don't know if this is going to be like a Mr. X, the Tyrant type situation, or you just need to run every time you see him. And if so, I think that that's a really interesting way to shake up the formula. You have an unkillable enemy that pursues you, and you need to stay on your toes. You need to sneak around a little bit. You need to keep that in mind as you handle every other situation. So it's going to be fun to see him jump through windows and all of that when you don't expect them. It's going to be some fun jump scares, I think. New Orleans Extended. The city of New Orleans has much more for you to explore both day and night. Okay, so we can go out at night now. That is something that you were not able to do originally. You go out in the day, and then you come back and it's night, and then it's that day-night cycle continues. So now we can go out at night. So it seems like it's going to be even more open-ended than before. Find new locales and meet new locals throughout the New Orleans French Quarter with all the loot quests and walkers you could hope to slay. Then when your morning journey is complete, prove your survival skills by jumping back on your skiff. Okay, so we got the skiff again, this little boat thing. Explore the city during the night. More loot, more undead, and more opportunities for adventure. Okay, so there's more loot if you go out at night. That makes sense because it makes it more difficult. More undead, more loot. So it's a risk-reward situation where it's even harder at night. That's interesting. I like that. I'm excited to go out at night. Help or hinder the exiles. Okay, so we do have a new faction. It's confirmed right here. Meet a new faction of survivors in New Orleans, rejected by the tower and refusing to join the brutal reclaimed. These men and women caught in the middle of the chaos can offer you incredible rewards if you take them on their daunting tasks and help them establish their claim in this deadly place. Or you could find a way to take their resources by force if the path to the center is more appealing to you. I like this idea. Here's one of the weaknesses of the last game is the fact that we have the tower and the reclaimed, and neither faction is particularly appealing. I don't think either of them are good guys. The tower, we hear about it being an oppressive place. We don't really see it. That's one of the things where I'm saying that we need to see more story happening in front of us. The tower, we never got to go there. We never got to see what is so bad about what they're doing, but we hear that it's bad enough people want to escape, so we assume that it's bad, basically. And they're using bells to stir the walkers. There's this, like, time limit of every time you go out in an area. There's a time limit because they're using bells to stir up the walkers, and they do this to kind of dominate the area. And that to me is a little bit shady. I can understand why it might be advantageous to them to do that, though. But as far as the reclaimed, they're rebelling against the supposedly oppressive tower, which we never really get to see, like I said. But the reclaimed are hanging people upside down and putting bags on their head and murdering people left and right. The game starts off with a character that you are meeting, that you set out your way to meet. This character wants you to help people escape the tower, and then he gets murdered by the reclaimed. And I think it might actually involve both parties. But yeah, he gets murdered right away. So there's nothing really appealing about the Reclaimed either, unless you, just want to be the evil guy. So I like this idea of a new faction that might be the good guys, somebody that you want to, have on your side. So I like that idea. All in all, I'm really excited about this game. It's coming out this year, and the specs here are looking similar to the specs for the previous game. So I'm like, can my computer run this? I think so. I think it'll be fine. I'm really excited about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think about it? Are you excited? Definitely hit the sub button if you want to hear more about this game, because we're going to continue covering it when they come out with trailers and stuff. And if you like Walking Dead in general, definitely keep it locked on Shook Earth Media, because we cover the comics, we cover the show, all the shows, the movies, etc. Walking Dead is one of my favorite franchises, so I'm really excited for this game. And I hope that my back is injured right now. I hope I'm better so that I can be swinging and killing all the zombies. It's later this year though, so hopefully I'm feeling better by then. Let me know what you guys think. Hope to see you in the next video. Peace out, everybody. Have a good one.